Hi friends, Diane from Boho Stamper. Welcome to part 2 of our Heartfelt Valentine. If you watched part 1, we used our jelly plate and some dye inks to create a few different backgrounds for cards. This was the last one that I created and focused mainly on using some pinks and purples so that I would have a good background for a Valentine. If you didn't watch part 1 and you just were tuning in for part 2, we'll get started here as soon as I have my layers all trimmed up. So I started by trimming off the excess white, and that way I had my color background because I knew I wanted to put that on a mat with a small border. So I wanted to see what my colors would be like against a couple of different color panels. So I thought that I would start it out on Highland Heather since that was some of the ink that we used. We used Magenta Madness and Highland Heather, I believe, on this panel. But when I held it up against the Highland Heather directly, it just didn't seem like the colors were as pretty as they could be if I found a different background. So I checked against black and white. I felt like the black was too harsh of a border, and the white also really didn't do anything to accent our beautiful colors that were created on the jelly plate. So after hem-hawing around about this for a little while, and I happen to think that I have one shade darker cardstock. We have Gorgeous Grape, which always matches up and coordinates beautifully with Highland Heather. So I cut down a mat of the Gorgeous Grape and then layered it onto the Highland Heather card base and was very happy with that result. I think that it made the colors of the ink from our gel plate really pop. So I'd already decided that I was going to use Stampin' Up's Heartfelt Valentine stamp set, and we have coordinating punches that go with that. And out of our new catalog, we have a Punch Party stamp set. And I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use a sentiment off of there and our punch maybe. Now on the punches, the scallop punch is a little bit larger. It creates a little bit larger heart than the solid line punch. So we decided here to go with just the Heartfelt, and we put the Punch Party stamp set aside. And I'm going to stamp using Gorgeous Grape ink so that it will stand out again against the Highland Heather lighter purple. And I wanted this one to be more of a friendship Valentine. So I found my greetings that I wanted to use. And then I just needed some scrap whisper white or basic white, whichever one you have, a piece of scrap cardstock, and we'll get the stamps put onto acrylic blocks here, and I'm going to stamp a heart outline. I decided while I had everything out, I might as well just cut my cardstock to size for my inside as well. I've got to get better about, I do stamp and use the coordinating stamp sets to decorate the inside of my cards. I don't usually do that during my videos. That's something I just do later when I'm going to use the card, but I want to get better about including that as part of the video so that we can make a complete project here. And if you want to go on further and decorate your envelopes, that's always a nice touch too. I don't always get that far. One of these days, maybe we'll find the time. I still have a bunch of stamp sets here that I really want to get to. So I found my sentiment that I want to use on the inside as well. And the stamp just creates an outline that we can use the punch on, and then you can put whatever greeting or sentiment fits inside that heart shape. So we'll just line that up in the center. I do have a habit of always stamping on scrap paper first, just to make sure that my stamp doesn't have anything on it or my ink hasn't left a splotchy spot on my image. Here we'll just add our message to the inside panel. And my card base, I guess I should mention, is the normal 5.5 by 4.25 inch card, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock that was cut in half and then scored and folded in half. So remember, out of an 8.5 by 11 sheet, you can get 2 cards. So I stamped my inside message, and there was a little bit of a light spot that I didn't like on my stamp, so I just turned it over and stamped on the back. And then I knew I wanted to add a little bit of a design on the inside of the card, so I pulled the Magenta Madness ink pad back out. And in this stamp set, there is a heart shape with a lattice design on it. I thought I could stamp that faintly over my message there, and that would give it a little bit of added pizzazz. So I'm going to stamp this on scrap paper first because I want to see how many generations of stamping it's going to take to have this image light enough that it doesn't interfere with the stamped message. And I think I'm going to go with the 3rd generation, which makes it nice and light, but you can still see the image of the lattice heart. It doesn't show up very well on the camera, but in person you can see the little lattice design on there. I also had saved some of the scraps from when I trimmed my front card panel off. And once I have this adhered to the inside, I'm going to add a strip of that leftover paper just to add more color to the inside of the card. So now I'm going to check to see if I want to use the scalloped outside punch or just the solid punch. And just as I was getting ready to use the scalloped one, I had a brilliant idea. I would just use my solid outline and punch my white heart, and then we'll use the scalloped one and punch out a gorgeous grape. This is going to make a really nice background for the heart, and it will help this stand out against the printed background. Remember, if you don't have or you don't feel like making your own background, any designer or pattern paper works just as well, and you can use this same idea just with your pattern paper. That purple background on the heart really does help it stand out a little bit better on the card front than just if we would adhere the white heart directly to it. Excuse me. So time to start putting our card together. And I'm just using Tombow multi-glue here. I'm going to layer this onto the gorgeous grape, which is cut just slightly larger than this panel. I think I made an 1/8 of an inch border. And this is an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base itself. So each one of these borders is very small. If you have a smaller piece of pattern paper that you want to use, you can have different size borders between your panels. This one just happened to work out that my borders were the same, which I don't usually do. I'm not always an even person. I like to have things a little bit offset. And this is the good part about using my liquid glue, because it allows me to move that panel around so that I can get it lined up straighter. Whereas if you use your tape runner, once you adhere it to your card base, it's going to be on there. You won't have much room for moving anything around. So now I'm just using my Stampin' Seal Plus, and I'm going to adhere my stamped white heart onto the gorgeous grape background heart. And using some foam dimensionals, we'll pop that up onto the front. I think the design of the panel itself is pretty enough. We don't need to add any ribbon. I am going to add a couple of the pearls from our Hydrangea Hill suite. And those were I had them out here. They're not the matte black dots for sure. So now we're adding the inside panel. Just with the Stampin' Seal Plus, and now I'm going to get a piece of that scrap from our gel plate and trim it down and add a strip to the inside. And that'll finish off the inside of the card. And we can go back to the front panel and we'll just add some of those pastel pearls. And the pearls have a pink, a light purple, dark purple, and a blue pearl. So I added a couple of the darker purples in the pink section and then the pink pearl up in the purple section. And that's going to finish off our Heartfelt Valentine. I'm so happy that you stuck around and hung in here through part 2 of our video today. If you have any shopping needs, you can always go to Diane at bohostamper.com or the website Boho Stamper and click on the shopping link, and it will take you to my online store where you can get any of these products that you need. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Thanks for joining.